Are you guilty of assuming your students know what you know? We all fall into the curse of knowledge, but how can we break away and keep fresh eyes?
Welcome to the DIESOL podcast, where we focus on developing innovation in English as a second or other language. I'm Brent Warner, professor of ESL, and I'm here with Ixchell Reyes, award-winning educator in innovation and professional development, classroom teacher, all the fun things. I wish people could see the video here because you're
Making
making
faces at
making
him.
faces at me.
I'm being
I'm
mature.
trying to be professional here, Ixchell. Come on.
Crack a
Um,
smile.
uh, how was Halloween?
Halloween was great. I was Snow White. What were you?
I well, I was that skeleton-ish thing, right? Like I
Oh,
had my skeleton
yeah.
cardigan on,
That's
so
right.
um, so yeah, it was but it was a fairly quiet Halloween, but still, all is good. So no.
I gave out stickers. By the way, stickers are cheaper than candy and healthier. So,
Healthier than candy.
mhm.
But what if you eat them?
Well, there are 0 calories.
What did the kids' faces look like when you handed them
Ah, you
stickers?
no, you give them Halloween stickers or funny stickers or meme stickers or come on, they liked it. Be
Okay.
different.
All right.
Don't be
I mean, I'm
don't give this
honestly wondering. Because I'd be like, lady, go back in your kitchen and find something for me.
that sounds like a boomer 2.0
Oh my
thought.
God. All right, this is the new trend here now. All right, we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right. So let's get into it. Ishel, you were talking a little bit about
hmm
well, you've talked about this quite a bit, and we've
hmm
mentioned bits of it. This idea, you've always called it fresh eyes, right? I think we've talked about it
Fresh
in a
eyes.
few
Yes.
episodes, right?
Um, hmm Oh,
So what do you mean by that first?
well, I've always number one. I always tended to be the youngest teacher in anywhere I was, so people discounted my voice all the time,
Mm,
saying, "Oh, you're too young. You just have too much energy." Blah blah blah. And then, of course, now I'm older, and I see my younger students coming in every year. They're younger, but they see things with fresh eyes, and
mm.
that's one thing that I think is so important for us to remember, to see the world the way we saw it, as if we were fresh, as if we were new. And that's hard to do, especially as you gain more expertise. So that's what I mean when I talk about fresh eyes.
Yeah. And I've kind of talked about this idea in another way of like
Mm-hmm.
the beginner's mindset, right? Is like,
Mm-hmm.
what does it mean to be a beginner? Like, what does it look like from that? And actually, there's research on this, right? Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
as long as we still have access to research, there is, it's a term called expert blind spot. And,
mm-hmm.
it looks like it came up from Nathan and Petrosino, I think. Anyways, we'll have the link in the show notes in here.
Mm-hmm.
But this idea that basically one of the quotes from their article, it's called "Expert Blind Spot Among Pre-Service
Mm-hmm.
Teachers," and they said that subject matter expertise across disciplines can, if unchecked, lead teachers to be blind to certain developmental needs of novice learners. Domain experts may forget what
Mm-hmm.
students find easy and difficult to learn, and so they were kind of talking about this idea where it's like, oh, okay, hold on a second. And we see this, I see this at my school all the time. So like, there's teachers who it's like, I know what's going on here. I'm an expert in this field, but maybe not necessarily like an expert teacher, right? So like a lot of teachers don't have degrees in teaching, for example. Uh, Most of our audience probably does because they have like TESOL type degrees, right? Which is usually a subdivision teaching degree,
Mm-hmm.
but it could be all sorts of people going on, and and even those of us with teaching degrees fall into these traps,
Or
right?
people who were placed in teaching positions without
Uh-huh.
support of having a degree. I know plenty of instructors who were they knew English and they were placed there and then now they're English teachers and could be
Mm-hmm.
by choice and maybe they learned to like it. But again,
maybe not fully well,
Mm,
and even if fully
mm,
developed, like the point is not like
mm.
that you had the right education or the wrong education. The
Yeah.
point is that like once you become an expert or once you
Mm-hmm.
become so settled into your way of life or of your way of understanding things, it's very hard to go back to like remembering what the students are seeing. So we're going to kind of talk about some of the actual structural elements of it up
Mm-hmm.
front, and then we'll talk maybe about kind of the broader like structural, language type of things around it, and then we'll go broader into like understanding more of our students, hopefully. So I want to pull out another quote from, I think this was from the abstract in the front of
Mm-hmm.
that article by Nathan and Petrosino. They said participants with more they were kind of talking about math stuff to start with. So they said participants with more advanced mathematics equation education, regardless of their program affiliation or teaching plans, were more likely to view symbolic reasoning and mastery of equations as a necessary prerequisite for word equations and problem and story problem solving. Okay, so pause on that, right? So they're saying, hey, you need to know this kind of this first level. They were saying like you have to understand symbolic reasoning and mastery in order to do word problems, right? And then they said this view is in contrast with students' actual performance patterns. An examination across several subject areas, including mathematics, science, and language arts, suggests a common pattern. So they're saying this whole idea is like, as you become more advanced, you're not really you may be guilty of finding that like, you're putting the wrong information up for the students or maybe
Mm-hmm.
putting it up in the wrong way, because you're making assumptions that they already know some of the things that you know.
So this whole phenomena, it seems counterintuitive, that sometimes being an expert can actually work against you.
Hmm.
But the article shows that this happens in a few interesting ways. For example, when you're teaching something, the methods that work great for beginners can actually backfire with experts. It's sort of like trying to teach someone who already knows how to drive by making them relearn the basics, right? It
Mm.
just gets in the way. But what's fascinating is that experts can struggle with creative tasks that require making unusual connections between ideas. And that is because experts have spent years organizing their knowledge into these really efficient mental frameworks, right? Um,
Mm.
they're the well worn paths in their brain.
Mm.
So this is usually great for speed and accuracy, right? The brain's trying to be effective and efficient. But when you need to think outside the box or connect seemingly unrelated concepts, those mental paths can actually trap you. So you keep going down the same familiar routes,
Hmm.
or routes. Meanwhile, a novice, and I always think of a novice instructor because I'm a teacher trainer, um, they don't have those grooves yet in their brain. So they're actually freer to explore what others might consider weird or unexpected
Hmm.
connections, right?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
in an example of this is that this article quotes Wiley from 1998, and they mentioned the Think Aloud studies, which is where researchers ask people to verbalize what they're doing while they're solving a problem, where novices can describe their thought process pretty easily, but experts often struggle to explain what they're doing. And
Mm.
that's because expertise creates these automatic routines. You just do things without consciously thinking about each step. And it's like trying to explain how to tie your shoes, right?
Right.
You know how to do it, but the actual process has become so automatic that there's nothing left in your conscious memory to describe. And so I'm going to just sort of throw in that when I'm teaching my teachers how to teach their students, their language students, I have to tell them that they've got to do think alouds and they've got to actually verbalize the process so that
Hmm.
they learn to verbalize it
Yeah.
for their students who will then now internalize it and then verbalize it for themselves.
Yes.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of going to go very close in line with
Mm-hmm.
this article that I found in TES magazine. But basically, it's called "Why Teachers Need to Tackle Their Expert
Mm-hmm.
Blind Spots." It's by a teacher named Adam Goodridge,
Mm-hmm.
and he gave again. There's a lot of math people talking about this, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's probably very easy to get into.
Step by step
Yeah, like
type of.
formulas, right?
Mm,
And so, but I kind of converted the ideas that he gave. So, and it lines up with what you're saying here too, Ishel, is that, he kind of said, well, okay, I start asking myself why, like, why are these the reasons for these these steps, and then being able to explain those through, because you're making assumptions that students know two different sides or all the information that you're explaining to
Mm-hmm.
them. So I kind of switched from what he said into a pronunciation example here. So a lot of times, like, if you're doing a pronunciation, it says for the TH sound, like a teacher might say something like, okay, now put your tongue between your teeth for the TH sound. And it's like, okay.
Uh, uh, uh.
So to all of us, right, listening right now, we're probably like, "Yep, I get it," right? But let's actually think about that for a second, right? So you have to unpack it. And so it says, so the idea is like, what is actually meant by between your teeth, right? Point to
Mm-hmm.
the specific place, like the tip of the tongue touching the back of the upper front teeth mostly, and then maybe slightly protruding, sticking out, right? What does your tongue mean? Which part of the tongue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could like say, hey, I'm going to slide my tongue, in between my molars and go, is that the TH sound? No. And so it's like, maybe, right? It seems obvious to us. Of course, that's not the right thing, but like, are we being clear about that, right? Again, I think most teachers are pretty good about this, physically showing them, making sure that they can see what it is. So there's extra steps inside of there. But, again, we might produce this automatically and say it in a way that's just kind of short and to the point, but maybe those details there are not quite clear for the listener. And so they might not know all these words or all these ideas. So are we paying attention to those? And are we breaking down for ourselves? What are the steps we're explaining? Are each of those steps, or even parts of the steps and even vocabulary words, clear to the students as we're going?
Yeah, especially when your students might be from a country whose native language doesn't use those parts of the tongue, or
Mm-hmm.
again, like that just could be so abstract to someone else, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, we're kind of talking about this in terms of like the concrete points of
Mm-hmm.
language, maybe, but I think it's also, Ishel, what you and I really wanted to talk about was more kind of like the cultural aspect of this as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a little bit more to it. So I think we'll jump over after the break, and then we'll talk a little bit about kind of applying this across the board.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to take a quick moment to send a shout out to all our new listeners. I know we have some teachers listening in from Egypt, Vietnam, Colombia, Kurdistan, and all other places. So if
Ooh.
if the show is serving you and you are enjoying our content, I'd like to invite you to rate and review us. I think our last review on Apple Podcasts is still from 2023. So we would
Ooh.
love to have some fresh reviews from some fresh listeners, and also leave us a comment.
Is real hard to get people to do that, but
Yeah.
please,
Please.
yeah, if you like the show, that's the thing that helps us, right?
Mhm.
So awesome.
And thank you for listening.
And thank you
Mhm.
for listening.
All right. So, talking about fresh eyes, I think, Brent, I often think of the struggles that my students go through when they're adjusting to the culture here. And this might be different for every teacher out there listening, because maybe your students are going to be here for, I don't know, 4 years of college, but some are only going to be for 2 months. So
Hmm.
they may not actually become members of the community, or they may be living within a restricted area where they're not able to travel, for example. And so I think one of the things that I often come back to is to stay fresh and to remember who your audience is that most of the routine tasks for us here as members of the community may not be routine for students without cars, for example. Um,
Hmm.
it could also be that just going shopping for groceries or getting medicine when you're battling a cold might not be as easy as just your teacher saying, well, why don't you go get some cold medicine when you have
Hmm.
to walk 2 miles to the nearest grocery store.
Yeah.
Even going to the post office, that for some of my students can be very difficult. And so often I have to remember not everybody has the same access to what I have, which is a car,
Yeah.
simply, and just a car or a store nearby. And that's hard for us to remember when we're so used to that being second nature, right?
Right. Yeah. They're like
A
they're
lot of implications and
luxuries that we take
assumptions. Mm-hmm.
for granted, right? And so for sure, there's a lot of these things where it seems really obvious and quick to someone who has the benefits of these things, but maybe your students don't all have those things. And so
Mm-hmm.
what are you asking them to do that may seem
Mm-hmm.
like it's easy, but could actually be
Actually, yeah.
quite a barrier for them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I'm going to talk about a different one here a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, which is like I think we're
Can I do
so
it? Can I do it?
you can do it.
6, 7, 6, 7.
Okay, okay. All right, that's enough. Knock it off with that 6, 7 stuff. So the idea here is we are just like all of us we're as we get older, like we stop following all the trends, all the things that are popular for the young kids. I think, a lot of classroom teachers can be a lot better at this if they're proactively trying to keep on top of the trends and talk with their students, but it can be a little harder to know what's resonating, right? I still
Mm-hmm.
know, like, I'm guilty of this. A lot of my other teachers that I work with are guilty of it. It's like, oh, we've got these materials that are talking about the Spice Girls, right? And it's like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. And it's like, kids today don't know what the Spice Girls are,
No,
or
I didn't
whatever.
even like them when I knew what the Spice Girls
Yeah, I
were.
mean, it's like
Sorry.
trying to be on trend at the time, and then all of those things, it's not trendy anymore, right? But like being connected to the trends actually does matter to make connections with your
Mm-hmm.
students, right? And like what's the world
What's
that
the
they're living
reality?
in, yeah.
Right.
And so it's like harder to know a little bit what resonates, right? I don't know, like I was talking to some colleagues about K-pop demon hunters,
I
right?
that was my fun find.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, a couple
Oh.
episodes ago was my
Oh
fun
yeah, yeah,
find.
yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right. You did mention that. And so did I tell you that my friend's husband's the director of that? One of the directors?
What?
Yeah.
No, that's
A friend
cool.
from college. Like, anyways, so K-pop Demon Hunters, right, is like one example, right? Super on trend right now. A lot of people are talking about it. I have access to it. I have Netflix, but I haven't watched it yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with like TikTok
It's so
influencers.
good. You have to watch it.
I will. I will. I'm putting it on my list of things to watch.
Mm.
So like TikTok influencers, like like I don't even have TikTok, and so like it's hard for me to stay up with like which of the TikTok influencers, what are they talking about, what are the things that connect with them, right? And so some of these things in the past, when I was like my younger indie, punk rock person, whatever, it was kind
What
of a
are you
bad.
now?
Well, this is what we're getting to, right? Is like in the past it was a badge of honor, right? Like I don't know what's going on in the mainstream, and now I'm just a disconnected old man, right? so like, so like this is the boomer conversation, which
Yep.
and I am squarely at the end of Gen
Square.
X,
He's a
right?
square.
Gen X millennial bridge, right? But I don't know. You want to call me a boomer, so but the point is, we're all going to be that next generation at
Hmm.
some point, anyways, right? So, are you keeping up with the trends? What parts of them, like what parts, can you do little like strategic ways to keep up with trends, then where you're not necessarily totally on top of it, but know a little bit about what's going on, so that you can better connect with your students?
Yeah, and Brent, I just want to remind our audience that we've been talking about this for a while because there
Mm-hmm.
was a couple of episodes where we talked about Generation Z.
Mm-hmm.
And then soon after, we started talking about Generation Alpha. And again, this is where we are. If you don't know what your students are into, if you don't know what they're watching, how they're getting their information, then you are missing largely on a way to approach and also re-envision how your whatever strategies you're using in class.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a mindset.
For
It's a
sure.
mindset. It's not about age. That's my 2 cents. um, so moving on to another aspect is that we are so used to having devices and Wi-Fi and access to information so quickly that we often forget that not all students have that.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do if only one student in your classroom has a phone, or
Right.
perhaps no phone at all? I've had students who don't have a phone, or they have a phone, but it's a foreign phone with no service and only Wi-Fi. So therefore, certain things they cannot access. And so I
Mm-hmm.
constantly have to, when I'm thinking of a lesson, I have to think, how am I going to make this either low tech, no tech, high tech? How am I going to make it accessible for the students that might not, once they leave my classroom, there's no Wi-Fi,
Yeah, yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah, that whole phone thing, it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's so easy to fall into the trap of like everybody has a phone, right? Or
No.
everybody has this
Mm-hmm.
technology available to them, but
Not
it's not
everybody can
necessarily the
afford the
case.
Wi-Fi services either.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've seen students at my school coming in super early because
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to connect to the school's Wi-Fi because they don't have anything at home,
Right.
right? And you'll
Mm-hmm.
see these different things, and so, yeah, so definitely an issue. Okay, so now I'm also going to switch to the idea of putting yourself back into students' shoes, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and this one for me, I'm going to start with teaching a new class. Like as a
Mm-hmm.
teacher, we always give the advice,
What?
right?
You
You
don't want to
know,
teach the same class again because you're better at it now and you don't have to recreate everything?
Well, I
What are
do.
you saying?
But also like when you take on a new class, right? Like we get super comfortable, like you're saying, right? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm used to these things. I'm familiar with it. I've got my patterns down. But when you go in and teach a new class, you really do start thinking about like, oh, wait a second, hold on a second. I knew this. I remember all this stuff, but I don't really remember how I teach it or what hooked with the students. And so right now I'm teaching, I took over a grammar class on our campus and I'm still feeling very, fish out of water in that class. And we're like more than halfway done at this point, but it's like, oh, am I getting it down? Am I getting it all together for it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I organized? Do I remember all of these rules? It's an
Mm-hmm.
advanced class, so my students are
Mm-hmm.
asking these great
Mm-hmm.
higher level questions and I'm like, yeah. Right, like yeah, yes, I remember that. Like I have to kind of do the pause and pull back from the
Yeah.
dusty cobwebs of my brain, right? And so
The
things like
dusty cobwebs of my brain.
yeah,
Like a boomer.
and so or like pronunciation, right? So it's like, oh, anybody, I can
Mm-hmm.
just walk into a pronunciation class, but if you're teaching an advanced pronunciation
Mm-hmm.
class, that's super hard, right?
Yeah.
Like beginning pronunciation classes are pretty easy, right? But
Mm-hmm.
advanced ones are like they are demanding because of the very small nuanced sounds and like do like finding a really good pronunciation teacher, for example, is a challenge because not a lot of people really understand the depth of, all of the things that you need to know around, you know, phonemes and how diphthongs create different
Onsets and
vowels. Yeah,
rhymes.
yeah, yeah, all that stuff, right?
Onomatopoeia.
So anyways, yeah, so teaching a new class can be a good way for you to kind of reset yourself and go,
Hmm.
okay, hold on a second, let me think again about what's actually going on here.
Agree. 100% agree. I just got over teaching a writing class and I love teaching writing. I was a writing teacher, an academic writing teacher forever. But not having taught it for quite a while meant I had to retrace my steps and go back to, as you said, the very humble beginnings of onsets and rhymes and
Hmm.
diphthongs and all sorts of things and how words come together. Because you're still, at the end of the day, you're still trying to make sure that your students are interested in that and honor whatever it is that you're teaching, right?
Right.
So, along with that, if you can't teach a new class, you can certainly take a class in a new language.
Mm.
And,
How many classes are
um,
you taking right now, Ishel?
well, I have sort of paused official classes for a moment, but I was recently, as most of you maybe have heard in the other episodes, I was taking Arabic classes again,
Mm.
a different dialect. And I'm learning Ukrainian on my own, which is a whole other thing. But if you can take another a new language class or a class in a new language in an immersive style, if possible,
Hmm.
and we don't mean like Duolingo or an app, that can really take you out of your comfort zone because you think yourself as a teacher that you're going to be a great student, but you're
Right.
going to find out very quickly that the way that the teacher interacts is not the way that you maybe normally expect the teacher to interact because now you're doing the comparison thing.
Hmm.
And also your teacher, your tutor or teacher may be a different generation as well, which means
Yeah.
often younger. It also might be online, which means what kind of materials are they, how are they laying out the class? And it might be different than what you might expect or what you thought it should look like. The activities, do they make sense for the language you're learning? Do they
Yes.
make sense? And then also, I think one thing I found was quite different for me is note taking. I consider myself an expert note taker. I even sold my biology notes when I was in college because they were so thorough and so good. But the note taking strategies that you remember when you were in college or when the ones you maybe even teach now are just different. Our
Yeah.
students' neural connections are so different. And so, what works for them or the way that they even annotate is just different. And so, I make it a habit to collect their notes to see what they're writing or to see what they're, and
Oh.
I do both. Yeah, actually, because what they're writing is just a lot different. And a lot of the times, you're going to see it's connected to some TikTok keyword or
Mm,
meme, and you'll see those notes. But if you don't recognize them, then you're missing out. But again, it just kind of humbles you because even writing now with a pencil, if you're not doing it all the time or a pen, it's harder than taking notes on a keyboard. And you may just be used to using a keyboard, but if you're learning a new language, you're probably going to have to do things by hand
yeah.
for the
Well,
neural connections.
and, yeah, we know that there are better neural connections when you hand
Of
write versus
course,
when you type and
it's
all
a
those kinds of
different
things,
part of
right?
your brain. It's a
Hmm.
different part of the brain. Absolutely.
I love that part about taking notes, though, or taking
Mhm.
taking your students' notes and using them to inform your own understanding,
Taking
right?
notes,
Taking
literally
notes.
taking notes.
Um, okay, so my last one, and I've mentioned this before too, but it's like this idea of like setting up a new hobby, taking up an old one, right? Like are you doing something that you're not good at, right? And are you intentionally
This
doing
is
something?
hard.
It is
Mhm.
hard, right?
It's hard
Because
to do.
yeah, so like I've talked to before about like getting a guitar and like trying to practice guitar
Mhm.
a little bit, and like I fell off for a while, like I haven't done it for a little bit, and then it's like, oh shoot, I got to get back into it. I got, it's like, and like all those things, it's like that's the same thing that happens with language learners, right? It's like, oh, I
Mhm.
need to get back. I've got other things that prioritizing in my life, whatever else it is, right? And then questions that as you go through the process of learning something like a hobby for yourself is like, what can you figure out by yourself, right? What are
Mhm.
you trying to figure out for yourself? What are you holding back on before you even start because you think you can't do it without a certain amount of knowledge, right? There, but by the way, that might be false, right? It might very well be false that you can't get started without XYZ, but like
Mhm.
think about those things, right? Because for yourself as a learner, you're going, well, what am I holding myself back from? What am I getting into? What techniques are you using to improve yourself, right? So one of the ones that I thought was really interesting around this is like, as I was kind of coming up with ideas, is this idea is like, are these techniques things that you would encourage or discourage in your own class, right? So like,
Mhm.
hey, I'm going to use ChatGPT to learn, Arabic a little bit. And I'm going to practice some of the Arabic.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, wait a
Mhm.
second. What would I tell my students if they're doing this? And like, what types
Mhm.
of things would I be asking them to think about? Would I say
Mhm.
you can't do this in my class? And yet I'm choosing to do it for my own
Mhm.
studies and learning, right? So all these kind of things are really kind of considerations that we want to make sure that we're putting into place because they can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
So, lots of different things, kind of keeping in mind what it is to be a beginner. We're not just talking about only the language class, but
Mhm.
also the cultural things. Anyways, I hope that some people get some value out of thinking about that and reconsidering. Again, it's kind of a reflection idea too, and like
Mhm.
what are the points where you can make steps to better understand where your students are at right now.
All right, it is time for our fun finds. And Brent, do you know bananagrams? The
Yes.
tile game? Okay, so bananagrams, kind of like a Scrabble anagrams type game.
Mhm.
So this could be a cool stocking stuffer for those of you who are shopping early, but I play bananagrams with my students a lot of the times, and when they're packing up, it's just too heavy to actually carry a bananagram set. And they're maybe a little bit pricey for some of my teachers. So I found the world's smallest bananagrams, and
Ooh.
it's about 2 inches, maybe an inch and a half, and it actually contains every single tile in the original game. So
Okay.
it is a choking hazard.
It's a choking hazard. Yeah.
So,
Keep
but
away from
it's
small children.
great. And so I gave them out as prizes when we played bananagrams, and my students love them. And of course, it's a little memento. Plus, it just reminds them of their time here. So if you're looking for a stocking stuffer or something fun to give out, kind of language related, bananagrams, the
I
world's
love it.
smallest bananagrams, about $10.
Very cool. Very cool. So mine is a band. I know we just passed Halloween, but this is kind of a Halloweeny band, but it's a band called the Mismiths. So if you happen to like either the Misfits or the Smiths, guess what? This is the
Oh my
band for you.
gosh, a portmanteau.
So they're a lot of fun. I went and saw them. We went to a Demolition Derby last weekend, and they
Demolition
were
Derby.
playing. Yeah, that was its own. That could have been its own fun find. But anyways, they kind of combine the two bands, so they do cover songs, but they do their own original songs in both of those styles. And they really do a good job of bringing them together. They've got some of their songs on, streaming services. So we'll put a couple links in the show notes. But if you're into that, if you kind of want to have a fun time, and if you live in Southern California, I think you can see them quite a bit more often. They play, and so, anyways, the Miss Smiths. It's a fun time for a spooky Halloweenish band.
All right. For the show notes or other episodes, check us out at diesel.org/129. We are on most of the socials, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram at Diesel Pod. You can find me some of the time on Ixie underscore Pixie underscore. That's
Double underscores.
IXY underscore PIXY underscore.
Got it. Maybe. If not, check the website. And then you can find me
Or
at
find Brent.
yeah,
Just
just
find
find
Brent.
me. Well, you can find me at Brent G Warner. Pretty easy. Yeah, I'm out there too. Some places.
Thank you. We'll
Thank
see
you
you
so much for
soon.
listening, everybody. Take care.